I have watched a few episodes of Yellowstone. Sandra has not. But that show depicts some of the risks, associated with operating a ranch. Although I doubt that you've had to deal with some of the risks that they have to deal with that are a little more colorful. But what are some of the risks involved in that business that you have to deal with every day?
Sure. I think one that they really portray there that is true is there is a push and a pull between private and public, and there always will be. And that's something that I think you delicately manage. So that's always going to be something that both sides have valid points, and you will just always need to continue to communicate and manage that collectively.
Yeah. And on top of that, I'm sure there's disease and weather and all those things that just make life difficult constantly, I'm sure.
Constantly.
Yeah.
Constantly. So weather is a huge one. Obviously, you're operating a business in an environment that you don't control. And so you put things in place to help you control that. Some of kind of the real harebrained ideas I've had have been a little bit around that. The insurance has gotten much more sophisticated. I would say even in the kind of like the last 5 to 10 years, in order for ranchers and farmers to be able to manage that risk. But that's also personnel risk, right? Winters seem very, very long. And so however you can manage that to keep your team safe and healthy, and your animals safe and healthy.
How do you balance then there's, a more traditional aspect of ranching with the modern business practices? Because I imagine you do have to find a balance, right?
Yes. Absolutely. And it's a really interesting question, especially now, because there's been a huge renewed focus in, let's say, ag tech investment, right? So I think you didn't really have a big focus in that area for a long time. And I think it's because you just didn't have a lot of money allocated to it. And so you had poor returns, right? And there's been a big renewed focus, I think, because it's finally been accepted that our food systems is really one of the big levers that we have to affect global planet health, right? And so you have renewed interest both from a financing perspective and entrepreneurship perspective. And one of the things that I have seen is a big disconnect between, let's say, I'm going to hate grouping things like this, but let's say Silicon Valley and what's actually happening on property, right? And there's even a distrust there. And so when you're trying to kind of balance the old values, older lifestyle, but yet still make sure you're continuing to innovate, it is a very delicate balance. And you need to understand what's at the root of the people that are implementing these changes. So, for example, when you're looking at one that I have seen a lot of is, let's say, okay, drone technology to check herds, check health, all of these types of things. You talk to your cowboys, and of all the different things, all the different parts of their job, one of the things they love the most is saddling up and going to check the herd. So imagine you take away actually one of the most enjoyable aspects of somebody's job. That really changes the dynamic and changes their desire to do it. So I think you really need to understand what are those problems that you're solving, but in a way that's respectful of the individuals that are actually executing it on the ground.